Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Common Sense Medicine. My name is Shri, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the BSMD program application. I know that Common App and college application season is coming up, so I wanted to talk a little bit about this because I've been getting a lot of questions about these recently, and I wanted to dive in on some of the topics that I made on my general inquiries, but I didn't get a chance to talk about in detail. So the first topic that I'm going to be talking about is extracurriculars, and so for this one, I have prepared a slide deck that I just want to go through just like I did for the past one with the general overview, but I wanted to jump in on some of the questions that I've been getting about extracurriculars. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about was the application pyramid. And as I always say, the requirements, so the standardized tests as well as your GPA, are the most important things that you should look at when you're trying to apply to these programs because they want to see someone who's academically inclined, but on top of that, they want to see someone who's taking the initiative to do extracurriculars and application curation rather than just stay at the level of academic achievement. So, in order to purport a persona that does that, you need to make sure that extracurriculars aren't just a throwaway part of your application. It really builds into an identity that you've created about yourself. And I included this slide in the last presentation as well, but it's all about making sure that you show that you're a good bet for these programs. And it all comes down to this marketability factor that people don't understand when they're coming into the college application season, but it's about focusing on something outside of school. And I talked about this in the last video about why should you focus on anything outside of school, but now I'm going to be more explicit in terms of this deep, meaningful, and innovative exploration. I think that looking at your own interests in freshman year and deciding what you want to go into in the next few years is a crucial activity that a lot of people jump the gun at because they see other people joining Model UN or debate or something else and they want to immediately join everything. And that was me too. And I think the main thing to think about when you're trying to sign up for these activities is, will I actually make a difference in my own personal journey? And take a few minutes to really think about the activity that you're joining. Do you think that it will provide you with the intellectual rigor that you want? And do you think it'll make you grow as a person? Obviously, it's not that deep for every single activity, but I think that taking some minutes and even a few weeks or days to really debate whether this activity provides some value added into your life would be a good exercise to do as you're moving throughout your high school career. The next thing that I wanted to talk about was a lot of people asked me about research during COVID-19 and the pandemic. I think the main thing that admissions committees are going to be looking for is making sure that what you did during the COVID pandemic is an experience that allowed you to grow and it allowed you to push yourself to become a doctor. I think that these questions are going to come up a lot during interviews. What did you do during COVID and the pandemic to show that you were involved in trying to help? And the COVID pandemic's far from over, so you can still get involved in helping people sort PPE and get involved in other ways. But I think that making sure that it's true to yourself and it's your own identity and you're choosing to do this um, for the people who are affected. And that's like the main thing that I think medicine's all about. It's all about having a good way to affect local change. And healthcare is local. I've said it before and I will say it again. In terms of medicine, admissions committees as well as people in general want to help in a grand way, but most meaningful change happens one person at a time. So I think that these questions that are on the slide definitely are a good way and a good springboard to think about how you're going to approach your application season. I think understanding the questions that are posed in the third bullet, which is how the pandemic affected you personally and how the cultural milieu of today really emphasized how you grew as a person. I think that reading books and reading different commentary pieces will definitely shape your vision so as to improve your personal statement. And I think that getting political with a lot of the protests that are happening with George Floyd and Black Lives Matter, I think looking at all of these in a light that really allows you to stay true to yourself and allows you to get political in a rational way um, is a good way to show that you're mature and you like to think about these issues and that medicine doesn't happen in a vacuum. I think that also you need to make sure that you're informed about these issues before you talk about them. I talk about this in my interview horror day stories, but I tried to talk about health policy when I wasn't really informed about health policy, and that backfired on me. So it's a judgment call on whether you want to approach these issues in a very public manner, but at least in a private way, I think that it's good to reflect on these issues before you get started as a high schooler applying to college. Just think about them in a very mature way because you are moving into a phase of your life where you're committing 7 years of your life to becoming a doctor. You should at least think about how the environment that is going on around you in the world is going to shape your education as a physician. Now, again, I talk about deepening your connections, and connections don't just apply to the skill and craft that you're working on, but also the people that you're going to be seeing and the people that you're going to be talking to. I mentioned that your recommendation letters may be coming from your advisors of your extracurricular programs, but I think that building your skills as well as your connections to people is a very good way to leverage your applicability to these issues as well as these extracurriculars when you come to college. I'll give you a more explicit example to give you a concrete suggestion of how to improve on what extracurriculars you're looking into. One thing that I did in high school is I did a lot of research. And as a high schooler, you don't know much about the research world or about the publish or perish culture or anything of that fact, but you can learn as you're going throughout your high school years. And I think that there's so many resources out there. There's podcasts, there's audiobooks, and there's other things that you can kind of get as a way to implement into your extracurriculars. I'm not saying to waste all the fun that you have because I think that high school is a time for fun, but it wouldn't hurt to pick up one or two audiobooks and kind of listen to them on your car rides to school or on your school bus trips or your walks. And I think that this is good because you don't know much, so you're a blank slate. And I think that you're using your tools to apply directly towards where you want to go. Obviously, you don't know much as a high schooler, but for example, if you learn a little bit about statistics, it can help you a long way. For example, in AP stats and later on in research, you definitely need to have a very clear understanding of these statistical tests in order to do good research. So I think that goals are good in terms of your planning. They all lead to better connections to your interests, even if you don't understand where it's going just yet. I think the main thing is to pull together a story that you can market to these admissions committees. And obviously, it's a very practical way to say it, but I think that it's not mutually exclusive with understanding yourself. So you can market yourself to admissions committees while also understanding yourself. It's not to shroud yourself from actual personal development to encase yourself in a narrative that you may not think is your own. I think that perfecting this narrative is all about understanding what drives you to become a doctor. In terms of a BSMD, that's the prime question that everyone needs to answer. And I think I'll cover that in the interview prep when I talk about this, as well as the interview day in the next video. So I think that's where I'll end this video. And it's a short video, but I think it dives into what I mean when I say deep and innovative connections. If you definitely have any questions, reach out to me on my social media at CS Medicine on Instagram and Twitter. So, and the messages are open. So if you have any questions about BSMD programs or anything I can elaborate on further, definitely feel free to let me know. I also have a podcast where I talk about these health issues that I was talking about. So if you're interested in anything that I mentioned in terms of health policy as well as medical education, definitely feel free to check out commonsensemd.com. That's where I keep all my episodes. Again, remember, it's just common sense. And definitely feel free to watch the other videos that I'm talking about and wait for the videos that are coming up in the next few weeks. Thanks. Peace.